Hello, Internet. My name is the Golden Stalfos, and today I'm here to talk about why the Disney Star Wars movies kind of suck. Um, Now, first of all, let me just say I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. Like, I enjoy the movies, but, you know, that's about as far as it goes. They're enjoyable movies. One or two of the games has been decent. Um, the toys are fun, or were when I was young enough to play with Star Wars toys. But I wasn't like a super fan who needed to have Star Wars branded toys or else. It was just like, yeah, lightsabers are cool. I mean, as cool as any other kind of sword, you know? but but honestly, as a grown adult who's read and watched a lot of sci-fi and science fantasy, I can't help but think that Star Wars is just like a Dune fanfic gone wrong. Like that's really what it reads like. For anyone who doesn't know, Dune is to science fiction what uh, The Lord of the Rings is to fantasy, and it's an epic written by Frank Herbert, and it's actually still ongoing. Like, he died, and his son took up the torch and is still writing it. Um, I haven't read it all. I only read the first three books. Although the first book is a trilogy unto itself because Frank Herbert don't give a shit. Um, but yeah, it's 1,000 times better than anything Star Wars can come up with. Um, and everything about Star Wars, like the psychic powers and the desert planet and the the sword fights for no apparent reason, is just ripped out of Dune without understanding why it was in Dune, and um, so it's not as good, you know. And like, that's okay as far as it goes, but it does make me not really that enthusiastic about the franchise, and certainly not going fanboy crazy for it the way a lot of other people do. By the way, sorry if my voice doesn't sound so good. I recently caught the corona from my girlfriend, um, and I'm trying to record videos before my voice stops working and I die. Um, I probably won't die. I'm 24 and live in America, so my odds are good, but I do have to quarantine, and it does suck to be sick, so not happy about that. But anyway, let's talk about the Disney Star Wars movies. So, the first obvious answer to the question of why do they suck is Disney doesn't give a shit, right? They paid for this franchise because it has name recognition. They made the movies because they would sell regardless of what they put in the movies, you know? For them, it's just another way to make money, and it doesn't really matter, you know? Um, and that's fine, I guess. It's not that good, you know? Like if they actually cared about the franchise, what they would do is look around and see what the most popular Star Wars novels were and see if they could make screenplays out of those, you know, and then do that. I mean, I haven't read any of the Star Wars novels, and I have no idea if any of them are good because I'm not enough of a fan of this genre or of this series to go out and read semi-official fan fictions for it. But but a lot of the fans are, and at least you have a tested story, and it fits into the world, and you can workshop it a little bit if you need to. Like, that would make a lot more sense than just taking a new director who's never worked on a franchise like this before and saying, you've got a year to come up with a script and make it good. And then when the script he has is barely even finished and full of holes, you start filming anyway. And then the only reason he's able to finish the script is because you had to stop filming for a month. Like, that's not just a recipe for failure. That's just downright bad management and shit production. Like, you're not going to get a good product out of that. you know? Then after that film comes out and everyone is like, I mean, it was okay. It's basically the same as the fourth movie, but without any of the justification for how we got here. So the next film had better justify how the fuck we got here. They decide, you know what? We're not bringing back that same director. We're going to bring back someone else who doesn't like that movie and have him write a movie that explicitly doesn't answer any of our fans' questions and in fact points at the audience and says fuck you for even asking those questions. Because that's how movies work, right? You just talk directly to the audience through your antagonist and try to make the antagonist the love interest for some reason. right? Like that. What the fuck? Like, who thought that was a good idea? I mean, ignore everything else about the movie. The antagonist looks directly to camera, says, fuck the past, this is the new Star Wars, get used to it. Like 12 times. Why? Who wrote this shit? I mean, there's tons of other things you can point to and be like, this is dumb. Why is this in the movie? Like how they make a character look like a villain until the very end when they're like, no, actually, she was a good guy and she saves the day. But, like, why'd you frame her as a villain then? I mean, it's not surprising if the audience doesn't have the ability to solve the puzzle ahead of time. It's an ass pull. So you ass pulled out a good character from a bad character, but that's not good writing. That's like grade school shit. Like Chekhov's gun, dude. Fulfill your promises to the audience instead of like setting shit up and then reversing it. And then the backlash on that movie was so bad that they decided to bring back the first guy and have him, somehow fix this. As if that was even possible. Right? Like, you made one film that was almost okay, but didn't really have a solid footing in world or story. You made a second film that cleanly just swept any footing that film did have right out from under it, and then karate chopped it in the throat after that. And you're trying to fix this situation by bringing back the guy who did the first film? What is wrong with you? I mean, like, it's ridiculous. It's like you had a drunk driver who just magically barely managed to not crash into anyone. Then you get a different drunk driver who hates the first guy and goes out of his way to crash into that dude's house. And then you say, we should put that first drunk driver back on the road. That'll solve everything. You fucking stupid. I mean, let's be honest. Like, no matter how good these directors may be in their own right, like, they didn't have the time or the incentive to make good films. And, and when you pit them against each other back to back, like, of course it's going to be bad. You're making your directors use the art as a way to contest each other. How can you possibly get anything good out of that? I mean, honestly, when I first saw episode 7, I thought, why is this just movie 4 again? Like, sure, episode 4 was good, but how did we get here? Like at the end of episode 6, everyone had a happy ending. You know, we won. The Empire's defeated. Like, I can understand that, oh, you know, maybe some forces are still loyal to the Empire, even if the Emperor himself is dead. You know, you have to go sort that out in some smaller skirmishes, you know, that kind of shit. But, like, there's no way they could just rise up and create a new government that is even more powerful than the Republic that, you know, should have been filling the power vacuum left by the Empire. You know? Like, how does that happen? And more importantly, how does everyone in this universe know everything there is to know about the bad guys, but they think Luke is a myth? What? Like, everyone is like, oh yeah, Snoke, yeah, we know about him. He's been around for a while. He's done all this shit. I'm like, really, what shit has he done? How did he get here? Why does he look like that? Why is he even here? Is he like a secret apprentice? Is he Palpatine reborn? What the fuck is he? How did he get here? Why is he so powerful? No answers are given in that movie, at least. But it just left you feeling like, the fuck, you know? Well, who is this new Jedi character, and why are they so Jedi powerful? Every time in the past we've seen a Jedi this powerful, or even close to it, they were the chosen one, granted, you know, insane power from their unique lineage. So, is that the case here? Is she tied to Luke or Obi-Wan or something? You know, why is she on another desert planet but not Tatooine? Like, if you wanted to have another desert planet, why not just have Tatooine again? What's the problem with that? You bought the IP. You don't have to switch it up. I'm confused. I mean, maybe they thought it would be, I don't know, maybe they thought it would be too much of a coincidence if the hero was born on Tatooine 3 times in a row, you know, and maybe the original plan was to tie her to Luke and they wanted to, you know, bury the lead or something. I don't know. But but it's dumb. Um Especially since that, you know, whole environment is only there for the opening sequence and then they leave and never go back to it ever. And so it could have just been Tatooine again. You expecting me to believe that there are two rip-off Arrakis planets in the Star Wars galaxy for no reason? Why? And they're both lawless areas on the outer rim that don't have access to, you know, protection from the Republic and shit. Like, that's nonsense. That's complete fucking nonsense. I mean, it's ultimately not an important detail, but it's still so stupid and annoying. Ugh. You know, and like, episode 7 clearly has this issue of, well, we got the new IP, so we gotta do bigger and better than last time. You know, our heroes gain powers faster, the lightsabers have more shit going on with them. Uh, you know, we bring back Luke's old lightsaber despite the fact that it fell into the abyss and we don't know how it got back, but whatever. Um, you know, the new Death Star is actually an entire planet and it can destroy multiple planets, but also it has to eat an entire sun each time, so like it's not really reusable. It's kind of weird, you know? But whatever, I guess. Um, you know, it's just the same shit but bigger, right? Like, I don't really get it. You know, they bring back some of the original cast, most of them actually, and they kill off Han, which is fine. Like, the original cast shouldn't stick around forever in the new series. You know, that they should pass the torch and everything. But I don't think Han was the one that should have had an Obi-Wan moment. You know, like, thematically, I think it would have made a lot more sense if it was Luke. But, you know, whatever. Um, Also, why is Han's son named after Obi-Wan? Like, real talk. What is that? It's just weird. Like, I would expect him to be named after Leia's adopted father, not the guy that helped them out for a few minutes and then died one time. You know? um, but yeah, that's just me. Also, like, more importantly than that, why is Kylo Ren evil? I mean, in the first movie, they make it seem like he's just like a Darth Vader fanboy, but I mean, why hasn't Anakin's Force Ghost come down to him and just been like, hello, dipshit, I gave that up for a reason. Stop it. I, like, I don't understand. And also, like, since the legacy of, the Skywalker lineage rests with the bad guy now, why are we seeing everything from the perspective of the good guy? Why can't we just like do something a little bit interesting, switch focus, and show, his story as he tries to find the light, since he's the Skywalker, and that's what these stories are about, right? Um, but I don't know. They didn't do any of that, so whatever. I mean, the second movie kind of seems like it's trying to do that, but it's really hard to make that work when we've already seen him be so irredeemably evil in the first movie, you know? Um, and even then, he's still sharing screen time with the good guy character, who is effortlessly good and does not have to struggle with the dark side at all. Um, and so it's just like weird, whatever. Um, and on the note of the second movie, it's really bad. Like, the first movie was okay if you overlook the places where it doesn't establish reasons for the world to be the way it is now. And you assume that they're just setting this up and they'll explain it in the next one. But since they don't explain it, that retroactively makes the seventh movie just like completely god awful. But the eighth movie is god awful without any justification. Like, not only does it go out of its way to not set at anything up, like, it explicitly says, fuck you for thinking we would, fuck you for thinking we would answer those questions. We're not going to answer those questions. Um, which is a dumb stance to take, you know? It also explicitly is like, forget the old Star Wars. This is the new Star Wars. We're doing a new thing. Get used to it. Which, like, I can understand a director wanting to have that sentiment, but one, this is the eighth movie in a franchise. You can't pretend that the rest of the franchise doesn't exist. Get over yourself. Two, um, it's one thing to have an idea be like, a Twitter post or just like, or something like that. And it's an entire another thing to have that idea be like the central theme of your movie. So, you know, maybe you don't want to be judged by the legacy of the series you're a part of, and maybe you think that's unfair, but don't make the character turn to camera and say that 12 times. That's fucking annoying. It's immersion breaking. It's stupid. It makes your movie worse. Like, just flat out, it makes your movie worse. There's no other way to look at it. Your movie is bad at the very least because instead of having an actual theme or plot or point, you decided to make the movie about your direct message to critics, which is stupid. Um, you know? But I mean, even if you ignore that, the movie doesn't hold up. Like, there's an entire C story that only happens because you have a fake out villain. And like it's one thing to fake out the audience, but why is she faking out her crew? Right? Like why? And some fans of the movie have gone in and been like retroactively, oh, well, it's probably because she thought there was a mole. Okay, but they didn't say that in the movie, and why would she think that? Well, like, there's no reason for that. There's no reason for her to, just not tell anyone what the plan is. Like, for example, Poe literally goes up to her and says, "Hey, everyone's freaking out. It looks like you're trying to abandon ship and just leave us all to die. Please tell us we have a plan, any kind of plan. We need something to believe in right now." And the general, who is a general and understands how morale works, is just like, "No, I don't think I will." Like, yeah, that makes sense. That's totally something a military commander would do. Like, just leave their men hanging with no clue of what's going on and just hope that they don't mutiny. And then when they do mutiny, instead of being like, "Hey, dumbass, I have a plan. I am a good guy. I'm a general. You should trust me," she's like, "You'll regret this," and shit. And I'm just like, no, no, let's be honest. If you had a gun to your head, you wouldn't be hiding your true motives. All right, you'd be, like, like it's just dumb. It's just flat out dumb. Um, and especially like you can say, "Oh, well, she didn't want to talk to Poe. Poe was rude, and she didn't have to justify herself to him." But like, he wasn't the only one asking that question. He was speaking for the crew. And when the whole crew came up behind him with their blasters drawn for the mutiny, she should have been like, "Okay, I fucked up. Let me explain things." Instead of continuing to keep her mouth shut so that she can pretend to be a villain to fake out the audience. Because, you know, that's not how people think. Like, ugh. Anyway. But because of that, we got a pointless sea story where they go to a casino planet and spend like 2/3 of the film's budget on a side plot that literally does nothing. No characters change. No, there's no like advancement of the plot. Nothing. The Finn and Rose end up on the enemy ship, and they have a fight out during everyone else's fight out on the enemy ship. But that's it. And they could have just easily cut that entire thing, and it wouldn't have changed anything. Phasma died in the first movie, so there's no reason we need to bring her back so that we can kill her again in the second movie, you know? And that's the entire reason this scene exists, right? Like, if that's it. That's the only thing they accomplish is they kill Phasma, but we already thought Phasma was dead. So, so yeah, I mean, there's no point. Also, it's really boring, right? Like they just go out and then Rose is like, slavery is bad. It's so awful that rich people have slaves. Isn't it so bad? I'm like, didn't you explore this with like 1,000 times more subtlety in the Jar Jar Binks movie? Because I'm pretty sure you did explore this with 1,000 times more subtlety in the Jar Jar Binks movie, and yeah, this shouldn't be here. Let's be honest, it just shouldn't be here. And I know some people will try to defend that by being like, "Oh, well, it's setting up the theme of failure," but like, you can fail in a way that advances the plot. Um, you can have characters and even side stories that fall apart while still progressing the narrative instead of taking away from the narrative and making the movie 40 minutes longer than it needs to be for no fucking reason. Um, I'm sorry, but it's true. Like, you can have a narrative about failure without making the plot stagnate, you know? For example, they did the same fucking thing in Empire, right? The main characters are fleeing through space, they're trying desperately to escape, blah blah blah. But but in that, all of their failures advance the plot. They fail to fight back the invaders on Hoth, so they have to flee into space, right? And while they're escaping, they don't manage to actually escape. They get tailed the whole way through, even after they thought they escaped. They end up on this asteroid, and they think they're safe, and then there's a monster that almost eats them, and then they fly away, and they get to a place where they think they'll be safe, but they're betrayed by an old friend, right? So they fail. They fail repeatedly. But every failure advances the plot. It gets them closer to the conclusion. It makes the ending happen, you know? Whereas in episode 8, the failure is pointless. It doesn't help the plot. It shouldn't have been included, you know? I mean, seriously, if Finn and Rose just like fell and hit their heads on the escape pod in the first scene and just stayed unconscious for the whole movie, nothing would have changed. We would have had 40 minutes less runtime, and the movie would have been exactly the fucking same. And, and you could still say they failed to do anything during the movie because they were asleep the whole time. you know? Plus, I don't think you need Finn and Rose to have their own failure story when Rey and Kylo are doing so much failing, you know? Like, I think you can have your theme explored through one set of characters without, wasting our time by re-exploring it through a separate set of characters. But, whatever. Also, you can't defend a movie by saying it has themes. Like, Transformers 4 has themes, you dipshit. Every fucking story has themes. Jesus Christ. Like, literally, every story ever written has a fucking theme in it. That doesn't mean your writing isn't bad. Christ almighty. But, yeah, I mean, just flat out, like there are themes in everything. Everything. And if you, sit down and read them out while you show footage of the scenes in the background, it makes it seem like they're really powerful. But like, if I didn't get that while I was watching the movie, then your themes weren't well written, and you don't get points for that. If it has to be explained to me after the fact, you didn't do a good enough job. That's just how it is. You know. If you watch something well written, like watch BoJack Horseman, if you want to see what a theme of failure looks like, right? Like, holy shit, that show. I mean, I've already got 2 whole videos talking about the characters from that show, but that show is so deep and thematic and like brilliant, and it's 1,000 times better than any movie I've ever seen. Let alone a shitty Star Wars film that was made for a cash grab, you know? So, I have no problem saying that I don't give a shit about the themes in your story if your story isn't good in other ways. Because, there's a lot more to a story than that. And, I mean, quite frankly, if you can remember what themes are, but you can't remember what Chekhov's gun is, then you should go back to writing school. Sorry. That's just how it is. And then of course we have the triumph, the worst somehow in this whole mess. Episode 9. Rise of Skywalker. What a fucking travesty. Now, first of all, the movie should have been titled Rise of Palpatine because that makes more sense and is accurate to what happens in the film. But second of all, this film is dog shit on so many levels. I mean, first of all, Rey, like we open up with a training sequence of Rey, and like that's kind of cool, you know, like she finally gets a training sequence because so far we've had two whole movies of her being effortlessly badass at everything without even like taking the time to breathe. Like I don't think enough people seem to realize that the second movie literally picks up like the day after the first movie ends. So her entire journey up to this point has lasted like less than a month. Um, but you know, we skip forward an unspecified amount of time. The rebels are training. There's, you know, they're doing some missions to find out about this special MacGuffin that can help them find the bad guys. Fine. I mean, MacGuffin plots are dumb, but it's Star Wars, so who cares? Um, you know, every Star Wars movie so far has had a MacGuffin plot, right? Like, we have to blow up the Death Star. We have to defeat that spaceship that controls all the droids. You know, we have to, you know, like it's always a MacGuffin. And the last two, you know, they had to blow up the Super Death Star, and they had to find a way to, you know, escape from the Empire, right? Like they had to, or I'm sorry, the First Order. Ooh, it's totally different. Anyway, um, you know, they had to find a way to escape from the First Order by, you know, getting a code breaker. And then when that didn't work, they had to, you know, get to this one location where they would be safe. And when that didn't work, they had to blow up the thing that was going to threaten their safety. And then when that didn't work, they had to, you know, run out the back so that Rey could save them by magic. You know, like, it's nonsense. So yeah, all of that. Um, but in this movie, they just cut all the bullshit and say, look, here's a MacGuffin. It'll take you to the bad guy's home base. Then you can fight. Go get it. There's like two or whatever. And then they spend the whole movie looking for it and, you know, stumble from one coincidence to another that leads them to it, which, again, is lazy writing, but I don't give a shit. Like, it's Star Wars. That kind of shit happens. Um, you know, honestly, sometimes when everything goes according to a character's plan, it feels kind of bullshit. Like, in real life, coincidences happen and shit goes off the rails and you have to re-strategize and shit. So, like, some coincidences in a film actually make it stronger, in my opinion, but overusing it makes the film feel very contrived and weak. Um, but, you know, that's just me. So, so while they're doing this MacGuffin hunt, they just like rapidly expand the force powers to do things that were way outside of what was possible before. Rey can heal people, can bring people back from the dead. I'm sorry, what? How? What wasn't like I don't you think Anakin would have wanted to know about that? uh, Also, now their whole mind link thing, one, isn't being controlled by Snoke's puppet master, Palpatine, but and two, is so powerful that they can teleport objects to each other, but it's still a vision state, but they can still like physically touch each other. What the fuck? Why? Why is this here? How? I mean, that's so weird, right? Like, it's so weird. It would make more sense if this feature was dropped from the previous film, since, you know, they flat out said that Snoke was the one doing it to manipulate them. And now that he's dead, no one would be doing that, right? But they're still able to do this? What? Okay, whatever. Um, who cares? So, so then on top of all this lazy writing, they need to create weird, unnecessary character drama. They try to reframe Poe as like a spice runner, which I guess is like a smuggler, but uh, um, I mean, the Han Solo parallels weren't strong enough already, but but also like this for some reason is a problem amongst his friends who he's been fighting alongside for this whole time. Like, why does anyone care? Like, I don't get it. Also, why is Rose left out of the movie? Like, I think it might be because the Chinese box office like really hated the fact that she had a relationship with a black guy, because China knows how to do racism too. But I also think it might be because a bunch of fans got upset at the way the character was portrayed, and the fact that her entire storyline is completely pointless, and also that she like forces a love interest with Finn, even though he was already kind of like giving signals that he was into Rey. Well, at least that's what I got out of it. A lot of other fans seem to think that he should be involved with Poe just because their paths happen to cross 2 or 3 times and that's it. Um, I mean, he spends most of the first film with Rey, and he gives her like the Google eyes all the time, and he's like, "I have to stay with you," you know, even when he has a chance to just bail. Um, and then he goes out of his way to rescue her and everything. So like, it seems like he's got the hots for her, even if it's not, reciprocated. Um, but then in the second movie, they're just like, nah, we'll throw in a different romance because Ray and Finn aren't going to have any screen time together, so, whatever. Um, which just seems very contrived and dumb, but who am I to say that? So throughout the film, Finn keeps being, like, in near-death situations and being like, Ray, I have to tell you, I've always felt that. And then, they get out of the situation and he's like, oh no, never mind. I'm not gonna tell you now. Sorry. Like, dude, grow a pair. Tell her how you feel or shut the fuck up. What the fuck? There's not time for a will they won't they subplot. This is a movie, not a TV series. Get your shit together. And at the same time, like anytime Finn is or Poe is like even remotely nice to Ray, Finn just like gets upset and tries to get between them, and it's just like, bruh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Um, and then he gets mad at Poe because Poe apparently had a dark past or whatever, and I'm like, you were a stormtrooper. Get over yourself, bitch. So yeah, it's a little bit weird. And then there's the fake out deaths. Almost every character gets a fake out death. Even characters that were only just introduced now and we have no reason to care about them. Um like seriously. So we go so the first fake out death happens on another desert planet um, for reasons. And they think Chewie died, right? Like Rey, blows up this transport ship and she thinks it has Chewie in it, and she's just like, "Oh no, I killed him. Oh my god." And I'm like, "That's reasonable, I guess." But then everyone else is just like, "It's okay. It wasn't your fault. We have to go. We have to keep going." Um, which is a little bit of a weird reaction, but whatever. But like, Chewie wasn't dead. She should be able to tell that. There was another transport, and for some reason we just didn't see it during that scene. Why? I mean, you could kill off Chewie. It would be okay. Like this is the last film, and it would be a reasonable like traumatic experience. but you don't do it, and you don't even commit to the trauma, and I don't know why. Um, then there's a scene where C3PO is like, oh, I can decode that thing, but I have to have my memory wiped to reset my program so that so I don't realize I'm not allowed to read that thing. But if I do that, I'll forget all of you, and then I'll be sad. And everyone's like, well, don't you have like memory backups? I mean, you're a machine. Can we just undo it right away? And he's like, yeah, but I mean, I don't know if R2's memory backups are really gonna hold up. I might miss like the last couple of months or something. And he's like, and I'm just like, is that even a sacrifice? Who cares? He'll definitely get his memory back. Maybe he'll forget a few days or whatever, but who gives a shit? Like, ah. And then everyone in the room is just like looking all solemn and like, yeah, you got to do it, buddy. It's the only way. Like, thanks, guys. With friends like you, who needs enemies? But, then he's instantly back to normal. Like the next scene he's in, he's all fixed up. Well, not the very next scene. I think they have one or two scenes where he has a joke where he's like, "Oh, this is Baba Frick. He's my oldest friend," or whatever. But like, he's still in the movie. He's not dead, and we know we're getting him back. So like, whatever. Um. So yeah, that. And then there's this moment when they like blow up the town that those guys were in, and those guys includes uh, Poe's old girlfriend from his spice running days, who gives them a magic token that'll let them have free passage through enemy territory. But like, if she had that, why hadn't she used it? Um, you know. But whatever. She stays, and her town gets blown up, and everyone thinks she's dead, and it's all sad. But then she comes back later, and it's just like, you couldn't even kill off the new side character. What is this? Why do you keep doing this? Why are there so many fake out deaths? And then like Rey is dying in the last scene when she's fighting Palpatine, and Kylo Ren brings her back and dies instead, and she kisses him, and it's just like, you could have had her die with the bad guy. It would be fine. It would be fine if all three of them died, whatever. But like, why? It's so weird. And why did she kiss him? I mean, like, I know there were some sexual undertones to one of the visions they had in the first or in the second movie, but like, they really have not gotten along at all. And they've been at each other's throats, and they've tried to kill each other. And, he did kill her father figure, which is also his father. And, like, he's a mass murdering, genocidal bastard. And she just, like, yeah, I gotta get me some of that. Ugh. Like, what the fuck? It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Um, so yeah, and also just the fact that like Palpatine has been hiding out with 10,000 Death Stars, and he's about to launch them, but gives everyone enough advanced warning to rally against him, and it's somehow they actually succeed. Like, what? Why? It's so dumb. And I don't know. I just think it's fucking dumb, honestly. Um, the whole movie is dumb. The whole trilogy of movies is dumb because Disney doesn't give a shit. They just wanted to make money. And the directors didn't really care about Star Wars that much. They just wanted their paycheck. And, even if they did care, there was clearly a lack of like time and effort put into their scripts. It was just bad all the way around. So, yeah, these movies suck because no one cared about them or gave them the time they needed to be developed at all, or thought about, the questions the audience would have in a result of, you know, in response to the things you showed them. And you had this weird back and forth war between two directors who used who both decided to use the artwork as a way to wage that war, which just drags down the art. It's dumb. It's dumb and bad. And like I get it, right? Like, in episode 8, uh Kylo Ren tells Rey that her parents were nobodies. They don't exist. They were just drunks who sold her. But like, how the fuck does he know that? He's not older than her. He wasn't there. The fuck does he know that? Um, did the Force tell him? Why didn't it tell her? And then in movie 9, they retcon that, and everyone's like, oh, that's bullshit. And I'm like, that's the least bullshit thing this movie does. Uh, like, a retcon at least makes sense in this case, because Kylo Ren has no reason to know this information. Why would we treat him like an authority on it? Um, but whatever. It doesn't matter. It's stupid and it doesn't matter. These movies are bad. Honestly, I think the prequels were much better. So, but also, I don't think the prequels were anywhere near as bad as some people seem to think. So, basically, thank you all for watching. Leave some comments down below telling me how you feel about the Star Wars franchise. What's your favorite movie / game / book / whatever? What's the best moment in it? And I'll see you all in the next life. Laters. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you have any things to say about it, leave those in the comments section. If you like the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, share the video, tell your friends, start a cult, sacrifice your firstborn and paint their skull golden. I don't know, not that last bit. No human sacrifices. I'm legally liable. No, none of that shit. But, I got Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. I stream on Mondays. I also have a Patreon, but the obvious caveat with Patreon is you never donate to anyone unless you have money to burn. And if you have money to burn, then why not donate to a charity instead? I've got a few linked in my description at all times. I'm not affiliated with any of them, obviously, but yeah, I just thought they were cool. So, thanks for watching.